What is denormalization? Question number 21. Denormalization refers to the process of intentionally adding redundancy to a previously normalized database in order to improve the read performance of database, typically at the cost of some write performance. The technique involves adding redundant copies of data or grouping data in a way that simplifies queries and reduces the number of joins required to retrieve data. Denormalization is often used when read operations outnumber write operations, as it can significantly improve the performance of complex queries. However, it should be noted that denormalization can also increase the risk of data inconsistencies, since updates or insert may need to be made to multiple places in a database. Overall, denormalization should be used carefully and judicially based on the specific performance needs of the database. Question number 22. What is a stored procedure? A stored procedure is a pre-compiled set of one or more SQL statements that perform a specific task, such as retrieving, modifying, and deleting data in database table. Stored procedures are used to simplify complex queries and reduce network traffic by allowing the client to execute a single procedure call rather than sending multiple queries to the server. They can also improve performance by reducing the amount of data transfer between the client and server. Stored procedure can have multiple parameters which are listed with their data types separated by commas. In addition to user-defined stored procedure, SQL Server includes system procedures that are physically stored in the internal hidden resources database and are used to tasks such as scheduling, alerts, and jobs. Why we use a stored procedure? Stored procedure are commonly question number 23. Why we use stored procedure? Stored procedures are commonly used in SQL for various reasons. One reason is that they allow for reusable execution plans and cached execution plans, which can improve performance by avoiding the needs to recompile the same SQL statement each time they are run. Additionally, stored procedures can be shared across different applications and queries, making them easier to maintain. Another reason to use stored procedure is to encapsulate complex logic in the database, making it easier to manage and maintain the code. By using stored procedure, developers can write a complex SQL statement that perform specific tasks and then call those procedures as needed. This can help reduce the amount of code that need to be written and can improve the overall performance of application. Finally, stored procedures allow for reusability of SQL queries. If you have an SQL query that is used repeatedly, you can save it as a stored procedure which can then be called multiple times with the different parameters as needed. This can simplify the code and make it easier to maintain, especially if changes need to be made to the query. Question number 24. How to create a stored procedure? Creating a stored procedure involves defining a set of SQL statements that perform a specific task, saving it to database for reuse. Here are some steps on how to create a stored procedure. First of all, connect to the database server using database client tools such as SQL Server, Management Studio, or Oracle SQL Developer. Open a new query window or editor. Define the SQL statement that make up the stored procedure, including any input or output parameters that the procedure will accept or return. Use the create procedure statement to create the stored procedure, specifying the name of procedure in input or output parameters and the SQL statement that make up the procedure. Use the execute statement to run the stored procedure, passing in an required input parameters. For example, here is SQL code. From here, create procedure get employee @employee ID int as begin, select all from employee where employee ID is equal to this, then end. In the example above, a stored procedure named get employee is created with an input parameter @employee ID. The procedure will select all the rows from the employees table where the employee ID column matches the values of employee ID. This stored procedure can be executed using the following statement. SQL code, here is SQL code to execute the stored procedure, that is exec get employee @employee ID is equal to 1. This will select all rows from the employees table where employee ID is equal to 1. So question number 25, what is a function in SQL Server? So a function in SQL Server is a set of pre-written code that can be called to perform a specific task. It can take one or more input parameters and return a value, table or result set. Functions are used to simplify complex logic, improve code reuse, and make the code more efficient. There are two types of functions in SQL Server: system functions and user-defined functions. System functions are predefined functions provided by SQL Server that can be used to perform various operations on data such as mathematical calculations and string manipulation. User-defined functions (UDFs) are functions created by user to perform custom operations on data. These functions are used to encapsulate business logic, improve code reuse, simplify complex calculations. UDF, that is user defined functions, can be scalar or table valued functions, which means and they can return a single value or a table. To create a user defined function, you can use SQL Server Management Studio and connect to database, then expand the database where you want to create a function, expand programmability, right click on the functions and select new. Thank you.